So Annapolis has 41,000 people that live in the actual city,
Yeah.
but we cover about a 10-mile radius around it, which probably brings it to 150,000 people. And we've got a newsletter of 18,300. You can definitely still get there through.
Welcome to another episode of the Karnjanaprakorn Show. Today I have Ryan Sneddon, who I discovered on Twitter. One night I was up late and I was just scrolling through my feed and I saw one of his tweets pop up into my feed and I clicked through and went down a really deep rabbit hole around building local newsletters and how that can build into a local ecosystem. So I thought it would be fun to invite him on the podcast to hear about what he's doing, hear about his master plan. And we also talked about a free business idea that he is also thinking through, which we'll dive into as well. So welcome to the show, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Now I finally know how to say your last name. I've just, every time it's been like, I think this is the third time we've rescheduled this. I've just put it on my calendar as Michael K podcast.
Yeah.
So it's Karnjanaprakorn.
Yeah. Karnjanaprakorn,
Where is that from?
Thailand.
Cool.
Yeah. My dad's from Thailand. My mom's from Korea. And the funny story behind that is I first learned how to say it from my mom, who has obviously like an accent. So I learned how to say it incorrectly for probably like 10 to 15 years of my life before my dad finally corrected me. Thanks for joining. Maybe to get started, do you want to just give a quick overview of what you're up to and what your company is?
Yeah, my business is a local email newsletter. It's really a local media company, and email is the first thing that it's like our main priority. But we also do a couple events around town. It's basically a newspaper that's sent through email to everybody in town or everybody who signed up for it. It's totally free. And we send it out 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. And we just tell everybody what's going on, what the city council's up to, what the government's up to, what new businesses are opening, what parties are going on this weekend, parades, just really anything that you'd want to know. If you want to get out and live in your city and really know what's going on, then we're the best resource for that in Annapolis, Maryland.
Got it. How big is Annapolis and how big is the newsletter today?
So Annapolis has 41,000 people that live in the actual city,
Yeah.
but we cover about a 10-mile radius around it, which probably brings it to 150,000 people. And we've got a newsletter of 18,300.
Got it. That's like almost 10% penetration into the market, right?
Yeah, it's definitely getting harder and harder to find more people to sign up.
Yeah.
We have a referral program where
Yeah.
everybody wants to get points because our first level used to be that you would get your birthday at the top of the newsletter if you got 3 people to sign up. But it's getting so hard to get 3 people to sign up now. Our referral program is still good, but like everybody tells me all the time, "Oh, I'm trying to get all my friends to sign up." Like I literally asked every single one of my neighbors and they all already read it. So
That's
it's a good thing for me. It's not a good thing for the referrers.
yeah. So what did you do before this? What inspired you to start this?
So I saw a company named 6 a.m. City that was doing it in, at that time, only 7 cities. Now they're
Got it.
doing it in 27 cities. And I saw them when I was just outside of college. I was a software consultant. Somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to go to this new thing in town?" And I was like, "Yeah, how'd you hear about that?" And they said, "Oh, you got to read this newsletter." So I signed up for it. I thought it was cool just as a consumer. I never thought about doing the same business model somewhere else. But then I guess probably about a year later, I started thinking about it as a business model because I quit my job and I was trying to think about what I was going to do. And then at that same time, I got exposed to the Hustle email newsletter. Newsletters were still kind of, I mean, this we're talking about 5 years ago now. Newsletters were still a little bit in the shadows, is probably the right
Mhm.
word. Like now, it's a very commonly accepted thing in this small entrepreneur community on Twitter. But back then, these are still big newsletters. We're talking about millions of people reading the Hustle and Morning Brew every day. But it wasn't, nobody was, or not a lot of people were out there thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go start a newsletter." And so I kind of started thinking about it. And then it took probably about 6 months of thinking about it before I decided to actually do it. And then I just spun up a Facebook ad account, started running ads, and sent the first newsletter a week later.
How did you get it to grow in the early days? Was it mostly through Facebook ads? I would imagine getting to the first 1,000 feels like a long slog. I feel like I could write a newsletter every day for like 5 years. And I would never get to even 10,000 subs.
No, so it was all just Facebook ads. Instagram was growing and that was getting us a couple people. And eventually we started doing SEO content that people are finding and then signing up. And then we have a referral program too, but
Yeah.
main driver of the list is Facebook ads, especially because all the referrers come from the Facebook ads. It's really the main linchpin of the whole thing. And I just had conviction that it was going to work. I had saved, I lived in a really inexpensive place when I had my first job, which is my only job I've ever had. And so
Yeah.
I saved about half of the salary that I'd made in 1 year, even after taxes. And I had conviction it was going to work. So I just
Yeah.
was spending a lot of money on Facebook ads. And I've got friends now that are like, yeah, I'm going to go do something. I'm going to put 250,000 into it and see if it works. But at the time, my whole entire, everything I had was like 25 grand. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to put $1,000 into this and see if it works. And then once it started working, I was like, yeah, I'm going to put in $5,000 this week and just keep going. And I know I'll be able to sell ads eventually and
Yeah.
make it back. But that's how it grew. Like we got to 1,000 subscribers pretty quickly because you can get there real fast when you're running Facebook ads. You just target the local area. Eventually, you
Yeah.
figure out who responds best, which in my case was women over the age of 35. And then you can get the cost per acquisition down to like sometimes $1.50, sometimes under $1. And when you find an ad that works and a demographic that works, you just hit it hard until it runs dry, and then you find a new one.
That's amazing. So what happened? What was like that first year like once you hit the first 1,000 subscribers? Like, how did you grow it from 1,000 to 10,000?
That's not a very interesting answer. It's
Ah,
again, the answer is Facebook ads and not stopping. We
right. Let's
didn't
move on.
like haven't really changed, didn't change anything until we started doing some SEO focused content to get subscribers that way. Nothing really changed. It was just doing the same thing over and over again. Eventually, I stopped running Facebook ads. The fun part of that story is I stopped running Facebook ads when I ran out of money, and then I didn't start doing them again once I had money again because we were growing it up. Like even now, I haven't run Facebook ads in over I think probably 2 years, and it still grows every single day. Not a lot from like Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday, but from Friday to Monday newsletter, like usually we get about 40 new readers. I think probably because people are going to the things that we're talking about on Thursday and Friday. Maybe
Mhm.
they're inviting their friends or they're telling them about it later. And they're like, how'd you hear about that? And they say, go sign up for this.
Yeah.
So we always get a pretty big jump from Friday to Monday. But like Monday to Tuesday might be a,
Yeah.
two
Got it.
two subscriber jump or 10 subscriber jump. But it continues to grow every day. And I haven't put any actual dollars into growing the subscriber base in close to 2 years. And that was one of my theories from the beginning was that you can get this thing to a critical mass and then stop marketing, at least in paid marketing. And that's turned out to be right so far.
Yeah. Do you think if someone started one of these in any town that they can still get to their first 1,000 subscribers through Facebook?
No, I've seen it happen with
Okay.
at least at least one person in the last month. And I, there are a bunch more that have started that I'm kind of talking. I talk to these people on the phone somewhat semi regularly, or they send me updates on Twitter. You can definitely still get there through Facebook ads. Another way that is cheaper to get there that I wish I had known about would be Facebook groups. Pretty much every city
Oh,
or area
yeah.
has a local
Yeah.
Facebook group, and it's surprisingly active, like really, really active. And so you can't just get in there and self promote. If
Yeah.
anybody's ever spent any time on Reddit, they know that. But if you make friends with the mods, you tell them what you're doing, and you do it in a nice way that is not just greedy, then you can get a ton of subscribers really quickly out of that. I had one of our referrers like overnight got like 600 new referrals.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's crazy. That's like, I think, I think she's accounted for like 15% of our referrals ever in one, and it happened like overnight. And
You
it's
should hire that person to run like growth marketing for all the stuff you're doing.
Well, so no, it wasn't like some amazing strategy they had. They just posted it in one of those local Facebook groups
Oh, wow.
and it just took off. And I was like, I found out which group they posted it in and was like, can you post it again? Never actually ended up doing that. But the Facebook groups they're really great places to get subscribers because the people are only in the groups and active in the groups because they want to know what's going on. So the newsletter is a perfect thing for them, especially because if it's curated and it's really nice, high quality, those Facebook groups aren't always that. Sometimes they're really hot garbage. But if those people are in there because they want to know what's going on, and if you tell them what's going on in a really nice, predictable way, they're definitely going to sign up for it, especially
Yeah.
if it's free.
So the reason I reached out to you is because I saw what you wrote about your master plan. of your holdco and how it intersects locally. And that's what really intrigued me because as I explore all the different ideas or business ideas that I could do, doing something locally was, something always near the top of the list. So I was kind of curious, is your intention to build these newsletters in local cities all around the country, or is it to go really deep in one city and build a bunch of businesses within that?
So it's kind of both. I call it
Yeah.
going wide in local newsletters and deep in Annapolis. I
Yeah.
do think that this model is awesome and I think it should exist elsewhere. And I have a couple really cool opportunities where I have an unfair advantage to build more local newsletters in other locations. But I really think that it works best when somebody who lives there and loves the city runs it. So I'm going to spend a lot of my time teaching people how to do it and actually even franchising or licensing the model because I
Yeah.
think I can do that. If not, I'll just spend time teaching people and maybe partner with them. I think in Annapolis, you have this amazing opportunity to have free marketing for whatever you do. You can shut out your competition in marketing because you just don't let them advertise in the newsletter. And then you build up this
Yes.
incredible network of people by doing this that it's not like you can't fail when you do something. That's definitely not true, but you're not starting from zero. Like I'm starting my first non-newsletter local business right now that's going to be renting those luxury restroom trailers if you've ever been to a wedding and seen one of those or
Yes.
some kind of event. And we don't even have the trailer yet, but I already have at least one person who knows I'm going to do this. I've talked to them about it and they're like, I am 100% going to rent that for this graduation party we're doing in June. And then we have two other people that they run events in town. They're big events, like nice contracts, several events a year, and they're not guaranteeing that they'll do it. Like that other guy is like, I'm renting yours. I just want to support you because it's you. And I'm like, that's cool. That would never happen if you didn't have this thing, this local business. But these other ones are like, we'll at least give you the chance to quote the job. We've been using this one for 10 years, but we know you, we work with you on this newsletter. So we'll at least give you the chance to get in the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you just don't have to start from zero. And it's really nice to not have to start from zero
Yeah.
because as someone who started the newsletter from zero, it's really hard.
Well, taking one step back, what is that playbook then for somebody that wants to build what I would call like a local empire? So it sounds like step one is to build a local email newsletter, get it to, let's say, 10 to 20% penetration of the population. What what would happen, I guess, within step one that I missed, and what's step two and step three look like if one were to build this empire?
Yeah, so it's not just, a newsletter. It's really just build a local audience in
Yep, got it.
general. And so that newsletter is part of that, social media following is part of that. But then also part of that is building a network, which you will do as you build that newsletter and you go and the Instagram and you go to places and you're talking to people and eventually you become a local authority and people know you.
Yeah,
So you're building up audience, reputation, and network and trust all at the same time. And then, yeah, you can kind of pick whatever point at which you want to go and start other businesses. But my point was like, all right, this makes money now for me, meets my needs. I definitely have the network and the reputation to go do something else. Time to put, anything above the money that meets the needs into this thing. And we're going to go do it here. It is infinitely easier to find a partner on any business that you want to do because you probably know somebody or somebody who
yes.
already advertises with you who has the skills that you need. Maybe they want to do a different business. Maybe they already have a business that could be very nicely adjacent to the business that you want to start. And you probably know almost anybody that you'd want to know to start any kind of business.
This is so brilliant because the two hardest things for building any company, I mean, they're probably a long list, but at the top of my list is marketing. Like just figuring out how to market your business, especially if it's locally, it's probably really challenging. And then two is hiring. Because even if you had a great idea, but you didn't have a really good team to work on it, that doesn't work either. So being able to knock out both of those with by building a local audience, which you can market any other business you want to, like you said, shut out competition, which is also brilliant, but also use that audience to find really great talent locally that you can partner with or incubate or hire. I mean, it's just so brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's what everybody loves to talk about these days in business. It's an unfair advantage. If
Yes.
I need a new salesperson to sell advertising for my local newsletter, I have 18,000 possible candidates that I need financing to buy a restaurant in town, which is something I want to do. Only one restaurant that I want to buy. It's really famous in town and it's a great one. And owner will be like ready to sell in probably the right amount of time. Then I have 18,000 potential finance partners that I can ask if I want as simple as if I need I mean, like basically a cup of sugar to finish baking cookies. Like it's like walking to your neighbor, except instead of walking to your neighbor's house, you can walk to 18,000 of your neighbor's houses at the same time and ask who has sugar
Yeah.
and who's willing to give it to you. It's definitely an unfair advantage.
What are some other businesses you think could work locally? I mean, there's obviously the one you just mentioned that you're actually considering doing,
Oh
but
no, not considering doing like bought the
you're
trailer.
doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The money's out the door for the trailer. We don't have it yet, but it's on the way.
Yeah. What are the other areas that you're considering?
Really any kind of home services. We
Yeah.
have a big about 85% of our audience skews to the top of the socioeconomic status. And
Yep.
so about 85% of them have reported being homeowners, audience data surveys. So anything home services would be appropriate. I've also seen it work for
Yeah.
advertisers. Like, was on the phone with one of them the other day
Yeah.
who spends about $7,000 a year with us. And he was like, "Hey, I just got a job from your ad." She said she didn't even ask any other quotes. We already have the deposit. It's a $7,000 kitchen renovation. And I was like, that's great. Obviously, that's not all profit, but like you spend less than that with us a year and you just got it in one job. And this is
Yeah.
great. So, really, and so I've seen it work. I know it should work based on data that any home services is good for us. Also, those are usually nice high margin jobs. It's not like you're trying to sell something inexpensive. So, that's one thing I really like. Another one is any kind of commercial business, B2B, like one my really favorite one that I want to do and probably will end up doing as a natural progression from the restroom trailers is fleet washing. So
Is
what I
that?
want to do is I don't just want to be a restroom trailer business, like I want to be the best one.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
go to like bathrooms, they smell bad.
Yeah.
They're not clean. So part of our thing is a lot of these restroom trailer companies will have, and I don't even know if I want to say this out loud, but everyone will figure it out anyway. They'll offer you the chance to buy the services of an attendant for an event. And it's like $80 an hour, $100 an hour or something. And then they're just going to pay somebody $20 an hour to be there, just like the guy at the movie theater who hands you a
Got it.
paper towel and is hoping for a tip. But we won't. And they'll just be someone who keeps our trailers really clean at all times. And so I'm trying to do the best one, like
Yeah.
super high end service. And so part of that is always keeping it really clean. So a fleet washing business just cleans the outside of these things. It's not like a detailing company. We'll have
Got it.
people that do the inside of that, but it's basically just somebody who has a pressure washer and soap, and they'll clean off the trailers once a month, once a week, however often they get dirty. And that'll be great for our business. But there's pest control companies out here that have 60 trucks and they're parked in the lot every night and they might need someone to come clean them once a month. 60 trucks. That's a huge contract. You don't have to
Yeah.
do an incredible job because it's not like somebody's personal vehicle where they're going to get in and notice that you left a speck of dust here. These are just guys or women driving their working trucks, hardworking people that they just want it to be pretty clean and the company wants it to be clean so that they make a good first impression. So that's
Yeah.
probably my favorite one that I'm not doing yet, but I think I'll start doing it pretty quickly on a small scale with my own restaurant trailer business and then start doing it with anyone else, probably starting with my network of advertisers because we have, what is it, one, two, three, four businesses that are those kind of homes, at least four home services business with fleets and trucks that need these services. One of them is actually the one who brought it up to me. That's probably the guy that I'll partner with it on. And that's probably the one I'm most excited about that I'm not currently
Yeah.
doing. It'll
Yeah.
probably be the second one that I do. There's a lot of people
Uh,
that are excited to have our advertising help, but they're like, "Can you also run my email marketing for me and my social media?" And up till now, I've just said no, but now I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" I think that would be a good other business.
if I were in your shoes, I think the biggest challenge is picking the next thing because it seems like everything is an opportunity. But is it more? around just seeing where the demand is and just, if it overlapped with a good business, you're like, why not? Let's just do it. Or how are you choosing what to add to the portfolio?
I think it's definitely, is the demand there? Do my skills and my
Yeah.
resources make this unfair for me? Like for the restaurant trailers, definitely, because there's no skills aside from backing up a trailer associated with that. So it's not like I have to learn how to do roofing or find someone who knows how to do roofing. That's an easy business. I have the network of people that are running events. We have the advertising, obviously, goes without saying. And I have a good partner who's willing to do it with me. So I think it comes down to, can I do this? Is this like, this is just the unfair because I have the newsletter? Or is it unfair for other reasons too? And I think it really comes down to partners. And then eventually, once you have more of these businesses, it'll come down to what works best with your whole portfolio. So, like the trailers come first, the fleet watching, it makes sense to come second. Also, as I get good at other kinds of marketing for the trailer business, it makes sense to do the agency because I now have not just social media skills and email marketing skills, but I can also run your My Business profile too. And maybe I can make you a website or, outsource someone who can, but I know what makes a good website for a local services business, not just what makes a good website for a local
Yeah.
newsletter business. So I think it really, you really just need to pick a starting point and then things will start to fall into place, I think, because the fleet washing comes from having the trailers and having to learn those different marketing skills. So you really just need to pick a starting point and there's no right answer for that one. I
Yeah.
could start with the agency and then go the other way, or I
Got it.
could start with something completely different. There's no like, I guess there's sometimes just a completely right answer, and without a shadow of a doubt that you should go in one direction. But so much of life is just pick something and go. And if it doesn't work, like the trailer is a great one also because if it doesn't work, the only way to really truly fail is just to not rent it ever, and you have a little bit of loss because you were paying financing on the trailer while you had it and you weren't renting it, and maybe we had to pay somebody to make a logo or something. Somewhere along the line, we just didn't make the money back. But if we rent it only a couple times and then we sell it, these things hold their value pretty well because we bought a really nice one and somebody's always out there looking for one of these, another business. And the great thing is, even if it's a business in California, then I can sell it to someone out
Yeah.
there and it easily gets driven out. It's not like it's locked up here like a piece of real estate. It can be sold to anybody, anywhere in the continental US or probably even Canada. So there's really like no way to truly fail for that one aside from just not renting it at all, which I don't think will happen.
Yeah. So as I was preparing for this, I was thinking through, if I were to build a business locally, what would I do? So wanted to pitch you an idea to get your thoughts on it just for fun. I'm going to pitch this idea for you in Annapolis.
Okay.
Okay. So I think there's a unique opportunity in real estate. And the reason is because of the new law that just got passed where the sellers can't dictate the fees for both sellers and buyer agent. I started thinking, what would a platform look like, or what would a newsletter look like, or how would I approach that? So I saw what you wrote about local newsletter for real estate because everybody likes to window shop for real estate, especially residential. Everybody checks Zillow, or everyone has alerts set up and they always check it. So just having a newsletter where you can build an audience around just window shopping around the latest sales, the latest architects, the designs, anything related to the home. You build that audience. And then I think phase two is building a business that just focuses on selling real estate. And the way I would do that would be to cut out all the other firms by offering to sell your house, take care of the marketing, the photos, the walkthrough video. We will fix whatever needs to get fixed, etc. But in exchange, we obviously take a fee. So basically becoming like and that's the only thing we would ever do is that we would literally sell your home. And before that, we would give you an all cash offer if you just wanted to get off. But the idea would be the business would just focus on just the sell side. So that was what I thought would be a good opportunity if I had to create a new newsletter locally and then maybe launch a business on top of that. So what do you think of that idea?
Yeah, I love it. So part one is on my list of things to do.
No way.
I hadn't really thought of part two because I don't know anything about selling real estate and I would have to find the right partner for it. but I
Yeah.
definitely could with, like I said, 18,000 people that I can go ask for anything I need. But yeah, part 1 is definitely, like, on my list, and part 2 sounds awesome. It sounds super awesome, and it would be a way to I mean, real estate is it's got so many benefits, especially if you're in a great market. If you see a place where somebody needs to get out and someone needs to sell and you can't give them that all cash offer, and like maybe you know that if you took it and you fixed it, it's going to be great. Maybe you do that house hacking thing where you're like, I'll live in that one and
Yeah.
I'll rent out the house that I live in, and I'll as it gets fixed, I'll live in it, and then in 2 years we can sell this thing for an incredible amount more, or we can hold it for a lot longer because we know it's going to go up a ton. I think it's awesome. I follow our local real estate market here really, really closely because I do want to live here forever, or at least have, this would be like summer home base forever. I
You
hadn't
should
thought about
totally
the
do that.
second part, but the second part sounds like way more profitable because the only way that I was thinking of doing it was build part one, that newsletter, or maybe actual physical print magazine of amazing houses that just sold and things that are coming on the market and stuff like that. But then it was like and then sell advertising, just like I did with the first one. But if instead of that, you sold
Oh,
houses, that's way better than selling advertising because, yeah, you can sell advertising and maybe people are paying you 10 grand a year, but maybe you can pick up a house for 800,000, put 50 into it. Instead of you would might not even have to you might be making smaller money, but instead of doing all the renovations, even if you just can stomach the holding costs and get the permits to do the renovations or get the permits for a pool, then that can increase the value of a house here,
yeah.
and it could be even easier than actually overseeing the renovations. You just get a
Yeah,
piece of property, get it rezoned or get a variance that you need, and then sell it as a ready-made. You can put a pool in here on the waterfront in Annapolis. We already waited the 2 years for the permits to go through. You can buy this and start digging tomorrow for your pool.
yeah,
That could increase the value of a house here by tens of thousands of dollars.
yeah, and I think an even easier way to do this, if let's say you didn't want to take on any of that risk and you just want to do it in easy mode, it would literally be why you should work with us is because we have an audience of buyers that literally just look at houses. So rather than working with John Doe over there, who's just an agent that relies on Zillow, the MLS listing, like we have a whole audience. We can feature it in there. We can market it for you to get you the best offer. So you can literally just pull the audience card and do nothing else, and that in it of itself is a huge differentiation from every other traditional real estate firm and agency that exists.
If that idea is interesting to you, you should look at Concierge Auctions. Have you ever seen that website?
No, what's that?
It's a really cool company. They focus on mostly extraordinarily high-end houses, but if you could take that model and scale it down a little bit in terms of
Yeah,
like when I say extraordinary, I mean like 20, $40 million houses, really, really nice. They they do kind of exactly what you're talking about. They don't
yeah,
get to do any renovations. Most of these properties, they're pretty custom anyway. Somebody's going to come in and know exactly what they want, and they wouldn't try to guess what some buyer's going to want, but they'll come in and they'll do that. They'll clean it up. Maybe they'll put some new furniture in. They'll put some incredible videos together. And then a real differentiator is because now we're talking about $20 million houses. Somebody who can buy that, they can just hop on a plane and go see it. And so
yeah,
they'll host events where you get to come walk through the house and possibly see it if you want to buy it. And then they'll run an auction. And you, as the seller,
dude,
pick a
that's
certain
amazing,
number, you know, do I want to do a reserve auction or not? And once it goes,
dude.
if you do a no reserve auction or even a reserve auction, like if it hits that number, you're selling the house. And I think concierge gets a 10% fee. We had the reason I know about it is because we had a house here that was going to go on concierge auctions that one of my advertising clients had listed and was helping concierge as the co-listing agent. And they eventually, I mean, they like, I think it was like 2 hours before the auction started, the sellers torpedoed the deal, which they had the right to do in their contract. So it never ended up going to auction. And I got to go to the house on the day that they were walking all these people through the tour. It was a pretty cool thing. And if you're not able to do that, because that house was going to go for probably $15 million, maybe you can't spend quite as much money on the marketing part, but maybe you don't need to if you have the audience built in. And I don't know what concierge's auctions or what their audience looks like. I'm pulling up their Instagram right now to go see.
Yeah, I'm looking on their website. The
Yes, they have
lowest
28,000 Instagram followers,
Yeah.
probably have some people on newsletter as well. And in that case, you can also you can get really targeted. And when
Yeah.
someone signs up, you can say, "Hey, what are you looking for?" "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
just looking around." "Oh, I'm actively looking to buy in the next 6 months." "Oh, I'm actively looking to buy in the like now. I'm actively looking to buy in 2 years." "Okay, what's your price range? What amenities matter to you?"
Yeah.
And you can send targeted or personalized emails. "Hey, we have a waterfront house on Lake Ogleton here in Annapolis with a pool and a boathouse, super rare. Like only one of these comes up for sale every 5 years or so. And actually, there's only three on the whole entire lake. Match your criteria. So basically, if you don't buy this one, you'll never get another one."
Yeah.
And I, yeah, that could be pretty awesome. I think you'd have a lot of real estate agents in your town that wouldn't like you.
Yeah. That would be the only downside. I think it's brilliant though to do these in auction format. I've never heard of concierge auctions, but it makes so much sense. I mean, it seems like their price points are a couple million, like you said, up to the tens of millions, where that the math would definitely work. But I would have to believe that some variation of this would work locally.
Yeah, I definitely would. If I did it here, I would go one of two ways. I'd go into that super luxury market because
Yeah.
we have that here. We
Yeah.
have houses that are worth $20 million. What my only advertising client, his average home is worth a couple, or his average listing is worth a couple $1 million. But the problem with me going and doing that in that luxury market would be alienating that relationship. So I would
Yeah.
have to go to him and be like, "Hey, will you do this with me?" And maybe
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't want to list through your brokerage, then they can he doesn't own his brokerage, so maybe there's also a play there where it's like, "Hey, he's
Yeah.
finally ready to go out on his own, and we
Yeah. Let's
partner
do
and
it
do it that
together.
way."
Yeah.
So or I would go the other way and say, "Hey, we're not doing luxury," and
Yeah.
because that way I'm gonna capture both sides of it. Like, I've got everybody who is part of his clientele, and then we're
Yeah.
gonna go get the other side as well. I'd still probably partner with somebody who wanted to do that because I like I said, I love the real estate market here, but I don't know it like that. But I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah, I feel like if it's not in your wheelhouse, partnering makes a lot of sense. And finding people, the biggest fear for anyone is like they could branch out on their business fails, especially as they get older and they have a higher cost of living and they have a lifestyle they're accustomed to. But if you're partnering with them and you're like, hey, like the biggest reason this would fail if there are no buyers, but we have an audience already baked in. So we just need to spin this out and we'll provide a lot of the distribution if you provide your experience and let's do this together.
You have the advantage there too of you would obviously want to build a social following as well. So you're going to
Oh,
get a virality if you post an amazing house and you're going to get people sending it to their friends,
yes.
spouses. So you definitely would have a higher viral post per overall post ratio than like something like I have because we have some posts that can go pretty viral. If we post anything about the Naval Academy, it's like some one of their really interesting traditions and we do a really compelling video about it, then we have the chance to go viral to a much bigger crowd than just the people that live in Annapolis. Like we have one video from pretty cool, actually super cool tradition that the Naval Academy does that has 7 million views. And we have another
Wow.
one that has a couple 100,000 of another cool tradition they have. Anytime we put up a video of the Blue Angels, the F-18 pilots that do the amazing acrobatics for the Navy demonstration team, that gets a pretty good amount of views because those things are super shareable and they have a much bigger audience interested in them than just people who live in Annapolis. But if you could have a pretty cool following there, and you could have as long as you didn't bomb them with emails too often, I think you could get people outside of where you live as well that are looking to move there.
Oh, yeah,
If you're in like a destination town, I wouldn't do that business in a city like not to pick on my friend Alex here, but Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I wouldn't do that there. But in Annapolis, I'd absolutely do that. People want to move here. I would only do that in what I would call a desirable city. I
yeah,
don't know
I
why
think
people move to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, but I don't think it's because they're like, oh, they have the quality of living there is awesome. I'm going to go there.
yeah,
No offense to anyone who's listening to this in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I don't want to keep picking on you so hard, but like in Annapolis, we have the boating. Everyone likes the boating.
yeah,
I think that works probably best in coastal cities or mountains.
I would agree. And just to add to that, if you had your local marketing agency that can pick up a lot of that work for its own businesses, I think that would make a lot of sense. And everyone likes to look at real estate. And if you are at a vacation destination or a second home destination, you're going to pick up an audience from all over the world, if not definitely over the country, if not all of the world, see crowd because they're going to want to have a second home or a retirement home there. And you're going to have people that might be in Iowa that want, that are wealthy that might just want to live there over the summer. So you're already broadening out your audience as well.
Like I said, it's on the list, but only the first part. The second part's really
Yeah.
intriguing.
Well, I like the second part because that's just one idea. I mean, there are so many, like you said, home services could be a thing. You could go vertical or horizontal within that. There's real estate, there's hospitality within real estate, there's short-term rentals, long-term rentals. I mean, there's
So
so many opportunities within that.
the grander idea, I think that you're kind of talking about there when you say there's all these other opportunities is another one of the big theories that I had when I started. I don't know, they're definitely not the pioneers of this, but I think they did a really good job of it and still do. So I call it the barstool approach
Tell me about
is,
that.
well, it's very simple. If you have an audience that loves you and trusts you, you can sell them anything you want. If I have an audience here in Annapolis, I can sell them t-shirts. I have. I can sell them tickets to events. I have. I can sell their attention for advertising. I can sell I think that once you have an audience, you can sell them anything you want. Another way you could go in that, and you'd have to be a little bit more careful on this. I don't know the actual laws here because I know that non-attorneys can't own law firms, but you could have a title company, like a
Could.
or a mortgage company, anything related to homes, and there's so much money in homes. Have a cleaning business, it's very simple. You can have
Yeah.
anything that's related to it.
You could also invest into all those local businesses, and I'm assuming most of them are like LLC, so they would probably distribute profits back. So obviously you can't start every single business locally. That would be impossible, but you can incubate your own, you can partner, or you can invest. And you can obviously, if you are going to invest or provide if you're going to vouch for a business, you want to make sure they're a good business and it's high quality work. Obviously have a standard, but yeah, like it is a huge advantage, like you said, of having that audience.
Yeah, so it's funny you kind of been talking about the master plan probably most of the time we've been talking, and the one of the stories that I don't know if we were recording yet, but I like to liken it to the movie The Proposal. Have you seen The Proposal?
No, it's
It's Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock, and Ryan Reynolds worked for Sandra Bullock in New York. He's like her low level assistant. She's the editor of some book publisher, and he wants to be an author, which is why he works for her. She is Canadian. She's about to lose her visa, so she's going to get deported. But she's really good at her job, and they need her at the company. And so I know she's also like a workaholic. She's obsessed. She can't lose her job. It's her whole personality. She doesn't want to go back to Canada. So she pretends to marry Ryan Reynolds so that she can be a US citizen or she gets to stay. I don't know if like what the rules are, but like basically if they're getting married, she can stay because he's American. And they are going back to his hometown, like as part of this whole thing, to announce the
yeah,
engagement. And eventually like they end up just deciding to have the wedding that weekend because like, why not? And the whatever customs immigration protection is like suspicious. And they go back to Sitka, Alaska, which is like this tiny little town in Alaska, and his name's Andrew Paxton in the movie, and every single store she goes by when they're going back from the airport to her house it says Paxton General Store, Paxton Internet Cafe, Paxton whatever, and like they literally own everything in the town, and that's kind of what I'm like. Why not be that with a local newsletter?
yeah,
Like maybe not quite to the level of like everything in the town, but like why not this famous restaurant that we have that's awesome and it's a great business. I haven't seen the P&L, but friends have, or one friend has, who's very good friends with the owner, and he's like, "Yeah, you do want to buy that. It's a great restaurant."
yeah,
Um, why not that? Why not the luxury restroom trailer? Why not the fleet washing? Why not? We have a couple tourist gift shops here in Annapolis that like all of the locals make fun of and don't go to. Why not buy those and put, excuse me, better quality stuff in them so that not only are you going to be the best tourist shop because they want really good stuff, but you're actually going to be the place that locals go to because you have cool enough stuff because you know the town really well that they want to wear.
yeah.
And, why not buy or start or buy into just basically every business you can and kind of turn yourselves into the Paxtons of wherever you live, all based on what is essentially the newspaper. I mean, back in the day, like the newspaper publishers were incredibly powerful people. They could do anything they wanted. You didn't mess with them because they could write about you and ruin you. but I don't know if any of them built incredible, amazing business empires out of their audiences other than just the incredible, amazing newspaper empires that they built. But I'm like, why not?
Well, I'm glad we went down the master plan route because that was a pretty interesting, and that's what I want to dive into. But to maybe pivot completely to a whole new topic, one of the things that I asked you was centered around, are there any ideas that you want to talk about that you've never talked about before that have nothing to do with a local newspaper or newsletter business? And we talked a lot about YouTube. So what what are you thinking within that? Why do you think it's a great idea? Like what let's kind of have a discussion around, YouTube shows.
Yeah, so like the whole YouTube idea is I guess based on this conversation, I seem to be kind of obsessed with the concept of an audience because this just
Yeah.
all goes back to that too.
Yeah.
But I guess the overarching concept here is, a popular buzzword right now, democratization. If you wanted to have a TV show 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago, like 20 years ago, yeah, maybe you could get one. 40 years ago, getting harder, like 60 years ago, average person's never going to have a TV show. Impossible. Now, you can have a TV show on YouTube, totally free to produce, aside from whatever it costs to film and stuff and edit. But like you can have a TV show that millions of people watch without having a network, and you own everything. I mean, you don't own the audience, of course, because YouTube could take you off, but you own all parts of the production. You own all parts of however you monetize it with whether it's advertising or another thing I love to talk about is building a product and then like basically a company within a company, kind of like you were talking about with build the real estate newsletter and then build the real estate company out of it. And you just like it's so cool. We have people that built their own TV show that millions of people watch on a regular basis. We have the ones like Mr. Beast, who everyone knows, who sometimes gets 100 million views, 200, 400, 500 million views on videos. And if you look at some of his stuff, it's very much like some TV shows that have already
Yeah.
existed. Like Wipeout is a great one. He does a lot of stuff. It's kind of like that. I mean, he just remade an actual TV show when he redid Squid Games, and I think it's still his most popular video. And I just think that's so cool that anybody can have a TV show now. And I will never do this. I don't want to go on YouTube and build a TV show or a YouTube channel. It doesn't interest me in terms of what I want to do, but I love this concept. And some of my favorites that are not Mr. Beast, that are a little bit smaller than people might not have heard of, are this guy Trek Trendy or another one, Jeb Brooks. They both do the same thing. They do airline review videos, or they started with that, but now they do other stuff too. Like everybody's really into. So I'm not trying to be like I was ahead of the curve, but I love that these people are into it now because I've been into it for a while. There wasn't any good content on it. These luxury trains, like the five-star hotel company Belmond has these amazing trains that operate in Scotland and Europe and Asia. They own the original Bell Oriental Express, and they run that between Rome and Paris, I think. And these are like $20,000 ticket train rides that most people will never get to go on, but they're really excited to see what it looks like. And so these guys just go do these review videos, or really not even review videos, more like experience videos. They just
Yeah.
show you exactly what it's like to do these things. And I just think it's so cool. One, because they're fun to watch, and two, they're just following the same format every time. Like they both come up with scores to rank these
Yeah.
things. If you look at Trek Trendy, he starts every video the same way, kind of exactly how Mr. Beast does it, where he kind of like tells you the ending of the video. He tells
Yeah.
you exactly what he's going to cover. And it's always the same thing. It's like, we're going to talk about the food. We're going to talk about the comfort of the seat. We're going to talk about the service, and we're going to talk about like how good the actual in this travel review world they call it hard product is, which is like the seat and the overhead bins and all that stuff, and then
Yeah.
also like the soft product, the food, the service, that sort of stuff. If something really takes off and goes super viral, he can get 10 million views on a video. And so I love that, and they're both working in these really viral shareable spaces because it's
Yeah.
like, to me, it's just like it seems normal because I've watched so many of these videos, and I've actually gotten lucky enough to take some of these flights in first class with credit card points. I can't pay cash yet for them, But to some people, it's like, "Oh my gosh, there's a seat on an airplane that costs $20,000. I could never even have imagined that that's a thing. I gotta send this to all my friends. How cool is
Yeah.
this?" Or sometimes it's like a rage thing where it's like, "Can you believe this exists? This is ridiculous." But it's still getting shared and it's still getting watched and his advertisers are still making money. And so I think that's so cool. Another one I love, it goes along with the real estate thing that you're talking about. And I do think that I would do some kind of video component if I was doing higher end houses here in Annapolis, is Inez Yilmazer, who is a Turkish guy. He was like a former windsurfing world champion that now he was in real estate development. I think he probably still is, but now he just films walkthroughs of houses, sort of like what you kind of always wanted on the all the TV channels. Like it's not overly dramatized because his audience trusts him and he doesn't need to throw in like cliffhangers and commercials and just be sensational because he needs to keep your attention because
Yeah.
there's a million other things, like, you could just flip the channel easily. On YouTube, you have a little bit more stickiness because they clicked on your video, they probably maybe they even came here to watch it, and so he's got, like, they're like 45-minute walkthroughs of sometimes $110 million houses, sometimes $5 million houses, and he's branched out a little bit too, especially to an area that I love. He super yachts, which is so fun to look inside of because there's not a lot of good super yacht content on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of good house content, but there's not a lot of good super yacht content because there's not a lot of people that own a $300 million boat that are willing to let you look inside of it. But I think what's happening with him is that brokerages are contacting him because he has a
Oh,
couple
that's
million
brilliant.
subscribers or a couple 100,000 subscribers. And they're like, "Hey, Nez, can we fly you out to Croatia for a week? You and your friends, aka your coworkers, stay on our boat, get the full experience. Oh, and we'll also pay you, and you'll help us sell the boat." Cool.
Yeah. There are a couple things that you said that I think make this a really good opportunity right now. So the first one is that a lot of these popular YouTube shows were based on old TV shows that we used to watch, right? So I used to watch Unsolved Mysteries a lot, and there are some YouTube shows that I watch that kind of mimic that, you know? And if you think about that, with the internet, you actually want to go super niche. So just within Unsolved Mysteries, there's probably like 100 different subcategories that you could dive into. And you could just own one of those subcategories or like a combination of them. And I love what you're saying about the YouTube, you know, building a show on YouTube, you don't have to worry about commercials or sensationalizing it or cliffhangers. And I don't know why more people don't do it. I think there was a whole trend maybe for the past decade around like lifestyle vloggers and people doing talking head videos, which to me
I think
feels
I think we can blame Casey Neistat for that.
yeah, feels pretty. I feel like that era is over. And I do think you're right that there are a lot of these shows that are popping up that are really good. And I actually think the next trend after that, let's say, is like super even high quality shows. If you even think about like old school HBO and how much effort they put into scripted shows. And for anyone that is a great writer and, you know, with cameras today, like anyone could film with a $2,000, $3,000 camera and it will look like the movies. So, and the beauty behind a platform like YouTube is it's the democratization, but also the meritocracy that if you create something good and it gets shared, it's going to spread, right? So you don't have to worry about marketing it and doing this huge, like $100 million marketing campaign and doing billboards all over the world. It's if you're indie, like I don't think this is ever going to replace like the Fast and Furious franchise, but if you're an indie filmmaker or you want to create a scripted show, that could be the next, you know, iteration of YouTube, I think.
Yeah, like, you have a chance now. Like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to be a movie maker, a director, a filmmaker, and go to Hollywood 20 years ago, like, fat chance. Only the very few make it, and there's a very defined path, and it's, who you know, and it's not always the best ones that are getting there. But now, like, you don't even have to go to Hollywood. You can make videos on YouTube and get enough people that eventually you say, "Hey, I'm making my first feature length film or I'm making my biggest one ever yet. And it's going to cost $20 to watch it." And I don't think YouTube has that capability, but you could do it on something like Patreon or something. And you could do it
Go direct.
all from your audience on YouTube, and I just think that's so cool. My
Yeah.
favorite one of all of them, and this is actually it's my favorite partially because it's made me realize this is what's happening, is Dude Perfect. Their show Overtime they do, I think they've done 37 of them now on YouTube, and it's like a 35-minute thing with always 4 segments, and they always do, like, some of the things are just regular segments that they always do. Like they have this thing called Cool Not Cool, where they call they're 5 people and they all call themselves the dudes, and each dude will bring in an item that he thinks is awesome, and then all the other dudes, include and him, will vote on it, and they're all trying to go for the super cool 5 green buttons, and they have these
So
fake green buttons, and they add sound effects, and it's just fun, lighthearted, wholesome content, totally family friendly every
yeah,
month.
yeah,
Like
that's it.
it's this is 35 minutes. It's really well produced. Like, it looks like a TV show, it feels like a TV show. Kids would actually watch this if it were on TV. Like, this is so cool, and that's what made me realize that that's what all these people were doing, is they're just creating their own TV shows. Like this podcast, this is just you're creating your own radio station, your own
Yeah,
radio show, and then newsletters, like, you're just creating your own newspaper or your own
yeah,
magazine. And I love this that maybe 20 years ago some of this was possible, but I would say no because there were no iPhones and that camera has made they changed the world. Like 20 years ago, none of this was possible. Still, now it's so possible to build your own magazine. It's possible to build your own newspaper, which I've done in 3.5 years, and I'm teaching people how to do it. And they're going to do it in way less time. It's so cool to me. I love these careers that didn't even exist 20 years ago. Sometimes I wish I was born a long time ago because I think it would have been fun to live in an era without smartphones and without all these distractions. But at the same time, my career wouldn't be possible if I didn't
yeah.
have this. So I'm definitely glad I'm alive right now.
Well, that's why the internet's great. I mean, it obviously has the good and the bad, but the beauty behind the internet is it democratizes access. It creates a true meritocracy. And if anyone's an entrepreneur or even a content creator and they had a little bit of luck and timing and hard work, they could really break through and get opportunities that they would never have gotten opportunities to before, which is why I think the internet is amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And you know that because you built a platform that
Yeah.
could teach people
Yeah.
things that they could never learn before. And people probably built careers out of things they learned on there. And it's just, it's amazing. The
Yeah.
power of the internet and the ability to reach, like I said, it's cool to go walk to your neighbor's house and ask if they have a cup of sugar. It's really cool to ask to walk to
Yes.
18,000 of your neighbor's houses at the exact same time and say, hey, does anybody know an intern that I can hire? Like, that's does anybody are any of you want to be a head of sales that I can hire? It could go even further. Do any of you are you any of you accredited investors who want to buy this business with me? Like, the sky is really the limit or really your imagination is the limit of what you
Yeah.
can do once you have an audience of people. And I just happen to like having the audience in that local sector.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hopping on the podcast, Ryan. It was really fun to talk about your background and go through your master plan and talk about different shows that can be produced on YouTube. So thanks again for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's funny to hear you call it the master plan. I usually think of it as the evil plan. It makes people laugh when you say it that way. And I
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know, there's just something about it that it's more fun to go after it when it's the evil plan.
Yeah. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.